Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Wars. My name is Sean and it is a new year, so it's time to do the 2021 Bourbons of the Year. Let's get into it. All right, so 2021 was quite a year for bourbon. There was a lot of great selections this year, and I was able to get some of them. But before we get into our top 10, first we'll do some honorable mentions, and we will start with Infused Spirits. This was a store pick from Total Wine, and this particular bottle for Total Wine was aged extra in ex-Imperial Stout casks and ex-Bourbon barrels. So kind of an interesting mix, and that imparted some interesting flavors into this barrel-proof bourbon. And it was a little bit different than most things I had this year, especially the stout barrels really added something kind of different. So that was a nice find. So if you guys see this, definitely worth a pickup, especially if you want something just a little bit different than your standard bourbon profile. So good selection there. Next up was Doc Swinson's Barrel Proof Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and this is the Blender's Cut. Found this recently. Now this is stuff from MGP, but I thought that Doc Swinson's did a really nice job with it. Kind of brought out some flavors I hadn't seen in other MGP stuff. So I thought this was the best of the bunch of the MGP, or now, what is it, Ross and Squibbs? Ross and whoever Ross is with these days. Anyway, next on our list is Old Ezra 7-Year. A lot of folks talked about this, and this one just barely did not make the cut of our top 10. This is a barrel-proof offering from Old Ezra, and really nice dark flavors in that. Lots of really nice charred and toasted oak notes, some dark fruits in there. Just a really nice offering, and it was fairly cheap. I think I paid $55 for it. So those were our runners-up. Now let's get into our top 10. Okay, so number 10 on the list was not a release this year per se, but since this is my first year running the channel, I figured I would throw it in anyway because it did great in blinds. So here it is. Maker's Mark 46 cask strength. And I don't know how you can go wrong with this one. It's available on the shelf all the time for about $55-$60. Just a great barrel-proof cask strength bourbon, and it's always available. So although it is just very typical bourbon notes, I think Maker's Mark has done a great job with this offering, and I cannot suggest it highly enough, especially since it's always there. Next on our list, number 9, Larceny Barrel Proof A121. I went back and forth on this, and sometimes it did well in blind, sometimes it didn't. But it did consistently do fairly well, and so it ended up making number 9. I did tons and tons of blind tastings to make this list, and I thought it was fitting they would make the list. So there it is, number 9. One thing I will say that is interesting about this is I get this kind of cherry Coke note on this particular bottle that I thought was kind of interesting that I don't get a whole lot. So that was worthy of something, I would say, for sure. All right, now to number 8. Another one that's not necessarily a new release this year, but again, first year doing the channel, so had to put it in, and this one just continually did well in blinds, so had to put it on the list. 1792 Full Proof. I know this is a little harder to find, but if you can find it, it's definitely worth that $60 price point. I know some people are getting it cheaper than that, and that's great. Definitely a pickup at $60, even maybe $70. I think it's a great bottle. Lots of dark fruit notes in there. Got some plum, raisin, kind of some maybe dark cherry in there. A really nice bottle and definitely worth a pickup. Okay, next up is number 7, and that is 4-Gate Foundation. This was aged 9 years and 9 months. It is a limited release. And I was happy to get this one. I got this through my brother-in-law who got it from a friend of his. So thank you guys for that. Really appreciate the bottle. Now this bottle does have quite a backstory. This was some stuff from Buffalo Trace Distillery, supposedly, that 4-Gate was able to source, even though maybe they weren't necessarily supposed to get these barrels, but they did. And a lot of people really loved it. Much lighter on the palate than any of the other 3 up here so far. You're getting kind of butterscotch, caramel, light brown sugars, maybe some sugar cookie or butter cookie notes in there as well. Just a nice Nice, easy palate, especially for a barrel proof, a very easy sipper. Quite a bit different than the rest of these, and I thought it was a very nice offering from Foregate. Although it is to be noted that is the most expensive bottle on the table so far. This is a $200 bottle, so keep that in mind when you're out shopping. Next on the list, we have number 6, another one from my brother-in-law, and this is Garrison Brothers Balmorey. And this is another kind of barrel-proof-ish offering. This one from Garrison Brothers. Completely different from the Foregate. Probably closer to the Weller Full Proof. Lots of dark notes, although this is more like toasted oak, charred oak, dark brown sugars, rich caramels, all those kind of darker notes, maybe even some chocolates in there. But I thought it was a really nice offering from Garrison Brothers. I know that is a higher price bottle as well. Of course, this is just a $3.75, but nonetheless, worth a look if you ever see this out in the wild. I know this is a little bit older bottle, but I was happy to get it, and I thought it was worth the buy. All right, so that was 10 through 6. Now let's get into our top 5. So for our top 5, I put a few polls up on Facebook and some other places just to see what responses I would get, see what everybody else was thinking in the community. And this bottle, our number 5 bottle, actually finished number 1. Although I have to say, I imagine that is because of availability. This thing was everywhere and still is. I'm still seeing this bottle from Maker's Mark all over the place. It's still in my local shops. Maker's Mark FAE-02, the second in the FAE line this year. And I thought this just tasted a little more mature, a little more, darker notes that I prefer, kind of that toasted oak, that char, the nice rich brown sugars and caramels. I thought those really showed up really nicely in this bottle compared to the FAE-01, which is a little more fruit forward. Really enjoyed this, but that finished 5th for me. But now let's move on to our number 4 choice, and that is the always awesome Elijah Craig Barrel Proof line. This is the A121, the first release of this year. And at first, this was not my favorite, and I mean, it still isn't my favorite, but it finished top 4, so that's certainly something. And even though a lot of people thought this was a down year for Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs, I still thought they had some great offerings, and this was certainly one of them. This one, just I got kind of a Coca-Cola note, lots of kind of burnt wood, toasted oak, lots of barrel presence, but in a good way. Lots of black pepper showing through on this. I thought it was a nice offering, and so that is our 4th place. Granted, in the poll I put up, this one did not do so well. It got very few votes, but I think that's more because of availability more than anything. Now, though, let's move on to our number 3 spot. And even though these are side by side, I think the B521 from the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof line is much better in my opinion. As you can see, I've drank much more of it. I think this bottle got way too much crap because it was kind of low proof, and everybody's like, oh, Elijah Craig is kind of fallen off. It's not what it used to be. But I disagree. I think this bottle was fantastic. I think there was a lot going on, a lot of complexity, and a lot of stuff that you could pick up because the proof wasn't so high. There was still full body, very nice mouthfeel, very viscous. So don't pass this one up if you see it in the wild. Definitely worth a buy. And of course, these are always around the $70 price point, so why would you pass them up? But now let's get on to our 2nd place. And 1st, 2nd, and 3rd were all very close. I honestly, when I got this bottle early on, my son bought this for me. This is the Bardstown Bourbon Company Pfeiffer Pavitt XO. Really excellent mouthfeel, very viscous, just mouth coating, very oily. Tons and tons of flavor. You get the wine presence in there, which I am a fan of dark wines as well as bourbon, so I thought this was a great mix of the two. Just lots of dark fruit notes, toasted oak, charred oak notes, lots of barrel presence, and nice rich brown sugars and caramels, even some dark chocolate notes in there. So this is like a desserty barrel proof offering from Bardstown Bourbon Company, and I thought it was absolutely excellent. And I really thought that it would take the top spot this year, but it was just barely beat out by one bourbon, and that is our bourbon of the year, Larceny Barrel Proof B521. Honestly, when I got this bottle, I was not sure what to expect. After the A121, which I thought was just okay, this one I thought, well, you know, maybe it'll be about the same, maybe slightly better, but this thing is awesome. Just everything you would want from a wheated bourbon, especially at barrel proof. Just tons of flavor, rich berry notes, strawberry, raspberry, get some chocolate notes in there, tons of caramel, brown sugar, nice toasted oaks. It's just absolutely an amazing bourbon. I don't know why people are passing up on it. In blind tastings, this thing just won over and over again. It is my whiskey of the year, the Larceny B521 Barrel Proof. Absolutely delicious. I hope you guys have enjoyed this list. I hope it helps you. If you can find these out in the wild, all of them are worth a buy. You can try them yourselves and let me down in the comments which ones you enjoyed most this year. And if you liked the video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more reviews from me, then you can click right here. And as always, folks, if you're really enjoying the channel, you can subscribe right here. And until next time, just remember, you can never have too much good whiskey.